If you're on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or survivor benefits, listen closely, because February and March 2026 are 2 months where a simple calendar mistake could cost you serious peace of mind. And I'm not being dramatic. Every single year, people miss a payment, panic, call their bank, blame Social Security, and then realize the truth. Their deposit wasn't late. It was scheduled differently. And here's what makes February and March especially tricky. Shorter weeks, shifting Wednesdays, weekend overlaps, and those quiet schedule changes that catch retirees and disability recipients completely off guard. One small timing change can affect when your rent gets paid, when you refill medication, when your utility bill clears, and whether your bank account stays in the safe zone or dips into overdraft. In this video, I'm going to break down the exact February and March 2026 Social Security payment dates in a way that's fast, crystal clear, and impossible to misunderstand. Whether you get paid on the first, the third, the second Wednesday, third Wednesday, or fourth Wednesday. And yes, we're also covering SSI timing, early deposits, what happens if your date lands near a weekend, and the most common reason payments appear missing when they're actually on schedule. So before you stress, before you call SSA, and before you assume something is wrong, watch this first, because the schedule matters more than ever. And if this helps you even a little, smash that like button so more people don't get blindsided by these 2026 payment dates. Now here's the thing. If you've ever checked your bank account on your usual Social Security day and felt that little jolt of panic because the deposit wasn't there yet, you already know how stressful the payment schedule can be. And for a lot of people, it's not just a minor inconvenience. It's rent, it's groceries, it's medication, it's the electricity bill, it's gas in the car. It's the difference between feeling stable and feeling like you're one unexpected expense away from disaster. That's why February and March 2026 matter so much, because these 2 months are exactly when the calendar shifts in ways that confuse people, and that confusion is what leads to thousands of calls to the Social Security Administration every single year. Let's start with the biggest misconception I want to clear up right away. When people hear Social Security payment dates, they assume there's one single date for everyone, like a payday at a job. But Social Security doesn't work like that. The government doesn't send everyone's benefits on the same day. Instead, payments are split across different schedules depending on what type of benefit you receive and when you started receiving it. And the tricky part is, many people don't even realize which group they're in. They just know that money usually shows up around a certain time, and when it doesn't, that's when the worry kicks in. So for February and March 2026, we need to talk about the 3 main schedules that cover the vast majority of recipients. There are people who get paid on the 1st of the month, people who get paid on the 3rd of the month, and people who get paid on a Wednesday based on their birthday. And then there are a few special cases that can throw you off even more, like early deposits, bank processing delays, and what happens when a payment date lands near a weekend or holiday. First, let's talk about SSI, because this group is the most sensitive to timing changes. If you receive supplemental security income, your payment is typically scheduled for the 1st of the month. That's the standard. But here's the catch. If the 1st falls on a weekend or a federal holiday, the payment doesn't come late. It comes early. That's right. SSI is paid early when the date is not a business day. And this is one of the biggest reasons people get confused. They assume early means extra, and it absolutely does not. It's the same payment, just moved forward so you can access it on a business day. Now for February 2026, the first thing you need to know is what day February 1st falls on. February 2026 begins on a Sunday, and that immediately changes the SSI schedule. Because the 1st is a Sunday, SSI payments for February will not arrive on February 1st. They will arrive on the last business day before that, which is Friday, January 30th, 2026. And if you're an SSI recipient, this is the kind of date shift that can cause real problems if you're not prepared, because it means you'll receive your February payment at the end of January, and then you'll have a longer gap until your next payment. And that gap is what creates the stress. People get their money, pay bills, buy groceries, handle their normal expenses, and then suddenly realize they have to stretch that payment for longer than usual because the next deposit is not coming until March. And this is where budgeting gets tricky, because the calendar doesn't care about your rent due date or your medication schedule. It only cares about business days. Now let's move into March 2026 for SSI. March 1st, 2026 falls on a Sunday as well. And that means the March SSI payment will also be paid early, arriving on Friday, February 27th, 2026. So yes, February and March are back-to-back months where SSI recipients get paid early because the first lands on a weekend. And if you've ever wondered why some months feel financially tighter even though nothing changed, this is one of the main reasons. Now let's shift to Social Security retirement, SSDI, and survivor benefits because this is where the Wednesday schedule comes in. If you started receiving Social Security benefits after May 1997 and you are not receiving SSI, then your payment date is generally based on your birth date. This is the schedule most people are on, and it's the one that creates the most confusion because it's not as simple as the first Wednesday or the second Wednesday. It's tied to your birthday. If your birthday falls on the 1st through the 10th of the month, you're paid on the second Wednesday. If your birthday falls on the 11th through the 20th, you're paid on the third Wednesday. If your birthday falls on the 21st through the 31st, you're paid on the fourth Wednesday. And once you know this, everything starts to make sense. The issue is that many people never learned this rule, and they've just been relying on habit. So let's map out February 2026. We need to look at the Wednesdays in that month. February 2026 is a shorter month, and that alone makes it feel different. The first Wednesday in February 2026 is February 4th. The second Wednesday is February 11th. The third Wednesday is February 18th. And the fourth Wednesday is February 25th. That means if your birthday is between the 1st and the 10th, your Social Security payment for February 2026 will be deposited on Wednesday, February 11th. If your birthday is between the 11th and the 20th, your payment will be deposited on Wednesday, February 18th. And if your birthday is between the 21st and the 31st, your payment will be deposited on Wednesday, February 25th. Now here's what I want you to pay attention to. These are the official deposit dates, but they're not always the day you see money in your account. And this is where people get tripped up. Many banks process deposits at different times. Some post deposits right after midnight. Others post them early in the morning. Some don't show them until later in the day. And if you use certain online banks, prepaid debit cards, or early deposit programs, you might see your money 1 or even 2 days earlier than the official date. That's not Social Security paying early. That's your bank giving you early access. And if you switch banks, that early access can disappear, which makes it look like Social Security suddenly changed your schedule. Now let's go to March 2026 because this month is just as important and it comes with its own pattern. The first Wednesday in March 2026 is March 4th. The second Wednesday is March 11th. The third Wednesday is March 18th. And the fourth Wednesday is March 25th. So if your birthday is between the 1st and the 10th, your March 2026 payment is Wednesday, March 11th. If your birthday is between the 11th and the 20th, your March 2026 payment is Wednesday, March 18th. And if your birthday is between the 21st and the 31st, your March 2026 payment is Wednesday, March 25th. Now, so far, this might sound pretty straightforward, but I want to talk about what causes the most panic because I see this happen constantly. People hear that Social Security is supposed to come on a Wednesday, and then Wednesday comes and goes, and the money is not there. And immediately, the fear starts. People assume something went wrong. They worry their benefits were cut. They worry about fraud. They worry about overpayments. They worry about a change in eligibility. They worry about the government suddenly stopping their checks. But in most cases, when a payment doesn't show up on the expected day, it's not because Social Security didn't send it. It's because of banking processing, a delay in posting, or a mismatch between the official deposit schedule and what your bank displays. And that's why it's so important to know the exact official dates, because when you know them, you can tell the difference between a true problem and a normal processing delay. Now let's talk about the third schedule, which is the group paid on the 3rd of the month. This includes people who started receiving Social Security before May 1997, and it also includes people who receive both Social Security and SSI. This is a key point, Because a lot of people don't realize that if you receive both programs, your Social Security portion is typically paid on the 3rd, while SSI is paid on the 1st. So you could receive two deposits in the same week and then go a long time without another one. And if you don't understand that pattern, it can feel like your money is missing when it's simply scheduled that way. So for February 2026, the Social Security payment date for this group is Tuesday, February 3rd. That's because February 3rd is a Tuesday, and it's a normal business day. For March 2026, the payment date for this group is Tuesday, March 3rd. Again, normal business day. Now there's something else that people forget about. Even if your payment date is on a Tuesday or Wednesday, you still have to factor in your bank. Some banks will show the deposit as pending, some will show it as posted, some will hold it for processing. And if you're using Direct Express, the timing can be different as well. Direct Express has its own processing patterns, and while it generally follows the official schedule, the exact posting time can vary. That's why I always tell people, focus on the official deposit date first and then understand your bank's habits second. Now, let's talk about why February and March 2026 are getting so much attention. It's not just the schedule, it's the fact that so many people are already on edge financially. Inflation has made everything feel heavier. Groceries cost more, rent is up, utilities are up. Prescription costs are still painful for a lot of seniors, and when your income is fixed, even a small timing change can feel like a crisis. So when a payment arrives earlier than usual, it can actually create more stress because you have to stretch it longer. And when a payment arrives later in the day than you expected, it can create panic even if nothing is wrong. And there's another layer here. In 2026, the Social Security Administration has been pushing more digital systems, more identity verification, and more fraud prevention. That's not directly about payment dates, but it does affect how people feel. When you hear about new SSA rules, new verification steps, and new security policies, it's easy to connect that anxiety to your payment schedule. So if your deposit is a few hours late, your brain immediately jumps to the worst-case scenario. Now, I want to talk about something that's rarely discussed, but it matters a lot. What happens if you're expecting your payment on one of these dates and it doesn't show up? The Social Security Administration's general guidance is to wait at least 3 business days before reporting a missing payment. And I know that sounds impossible when you need money for bills. But that's the official process. So if your deposit is scheduled for February 11th and you don't see it that morning, it doesn't mean it's missing. It might post later that day. If it doesn't post that day, it might post the next business day depending on your bank. And if it still hasn't posted after 3 business days, then you should contact SSA. Now, I'm going to say something that might sound obvious, but it's one of the most common mistakes people make. Before you call Social Security, check your bank account carefully. Not just the balance. Check the deposit history. Check pending deposits. Check whether your bank labels it differently. Some banks will show it as SSA Trees 310. Some will show it as SOS SEC. Some will show it as U.S. Treasury. If you're looking for the exact words Social Security, you might miss it. Also, if you changed banks recently, or if your bank merged, or if your account number changed, that can cause a delay. And sometimes, if you have a joint account and your spouse is also receiving benefits, deposits can look confusing because they're both coming from the Treasury. So it's worth checking carefully. Now, I want to address another big question people ask every year. Will there be double payments in February or March 2026? And the answer depends on what you mean by double. For SSI recipients, you might receive your February payment on January 30th and then your March payment on February 27th. That means you receive 2 SSI payments in February, but one of them is technically your March payment paid early. This is where people get confused and think they got an extra check. You did not. It's simply the schedule shifting. And this is why it's so important not to spend that early payment too quickly. Because if you treat it like a bonus, you will feel the pain later when the next deposit doesn't come when you expected. The government is not giving extra money. They're just moving the deposit date forward to avoid weekends. Now, let's talk about the people who are most vulnerable to these schedule shifts. It's often people who have automatic payments set up, rent auto drafts, utility auto drafts, insurance payments, subscription charges. If your SSI payment arrives early at the end of January, but your bills are set to auto-draft on February 1st or February 2nd, you might be fine. But if your bills are set to draft later in the month and you don't realize you have a longer gap, you might run short near the end of February. That's why it's so important to look at your full month, not just the deposit date. And for those of you who have family members who receive benefits, especially elderly parents, this is a great time to help them. Many seniors don't track dates closely. They just assume it will show up, and when it doesn't, it creates fear. If you can help them mark these February and March 2026 dates, you're not just giving them information, you're giving them peace of mind. Another thing that's important is keeping your information updated with Social Security. Even though payment dates are scheduled, your ability to receive them depends on your account being correct. If your direct deposit information is wrong, your payment can be returned. If your address is outdated and you miss a notice, it can create delays. If your identity verification is triggered, you might be asked to confirm information. And while that's not common for everyone, it does happen. So staying updated is part of staying protected. So if you're watching this right now, you're doing the right thing. You're staying ahead, you're staying informed, and you're protecting your financial future 1 month at a time.